When I arrived at the Morgan compound, a large, luxurious sedan driven by a non-uniformed driver with an elderly man sitting in the back pulled out. Taking a chance that it was J.P. Morgan, I shouted, "Wait a minute, you old pirate, I want to talk to you about Jekyll Island." The car stopped and I walked up to the backside window holding out $1 million gold certificate and saying, "Look what I have for your money collection." J.P. Morgan took the gold certificate and looked at it knowingly. "What do you want for this?" he asked. I said, "I want a guided tour through your library." Without batting an eye, Morgan asked me to get into the car and instructed the driver to take us inside the enclosure. Once inside, we got out and went into the library. He then took me into what I assume was the main reading room where a number of young people were presided over very strictly by an older man. With the exception of one distraught-looking girl, the students looked deadly serious, surrounded as they were by books suggesting considerable age. It occurred to me that perhaps they were studying ancient tomes of mystical import, from the absolutely fascinating The Carnivals of Life and Death by James Shelby Downard. Incredible book. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I want to remind you to catch me tomorrow if you can. If you can't catch the show live on Blog Talk Radio, this Stench of Truth, that's my radio show, Friday at 5, 1 hour, 5 to 6. I will be accepting callers after I've done my initial rant on the subject that I'm going to talk about in this video very briefly, or at least lead into the subject in this video. So a reminder to check me out on Blog Talk Radio Fridays 5 to 6, The Stench of Truth, where I will expound upon things similar to what I do here in videos on YouTube. What I'm going to talk about this week, I think, is the occult nature of money, and talk about the roots that we get our ideas about money and how the entire use of money and the commerce system that we have is occultic in nature. But I wanted to more specifically talk about something that I think is really important for people to understand. Because there's a lot of talk about changing a monetary system in this country, which I think it needs to be done. That is to move away from a privately held central bank which holds the sword of fucking Damocles over the nation and its people by issuing debt to a government and being paid interest for the privilege is complete fucking bullshit. But there is another school of thought out there that believes that money should be backed by gold or silver. I got news for you. Gold and silver are not going to save you. What the hell is gold? It's metal. Where did they ever get the idea that gold equated to anything? You know, in ancient times, ancient societies, ancient peoples, everywhere you look, gold had some kind of significance to people until it eventually was used in commerce, made into coins, and traded between people for stuff. Why was gold so important? A lot of archaeologists believe that gold represented the sun to ancient peoples, and because so many of them, quote unquote, worshipped the sun, then gold was a representation of the sun on earth, and therefore it had a certain power. This is why you see in ancient societies, for the most part, that only the rich, the fucking elites, the people who lorded it over everybody else, and most importantly, the priestcraft, were the ones who had all of the gold, because it was for the quote unquote gods. It embellished the temples. It showed the glory of the priesthood and the cult that they followed. But what is gold's real worth? What's it really worth? It's only worth what someone says it's worth. If I'm not willing to take gold and fucking exchange for anything that I have, it's worthless to me. And let me tell you something. Backing currency with gold or silver or any other commodity is just asking for the same kind of trouble you have now. Because there is absolutely no way that you can control the underlying commodity that backs the currency. That's why going to a gold or silver standard is useless, because you are still going to have the money be controlled by those who control the fucking gold. It's as simple as that. And you know what? If times get tough, and I have food, and I have the other things I need to support myself and my family, and you come to me with gold, wanting some of it, what the fuck is that going to do for me? It certainly doesn't equal an amount of food that I can eat if we happen to be in very drastic circumstances. I'm not telling you not to have any at all if you want to do that, but don't put your faith in it. And don't think that somehow it's going to come riding out of the fucking sunset and save this fucking country by being something to back our currency. Because it's bullshit. Private interests will always control it. Because it has an occultic connection. Because it is connected to the cult of the sun. And the sun cult is still very much in control in this country and around the world, because all of the secret societies revolve around that to a certain extent, larger or smaller. More on that subject tomorrow, 5 to 6 on Blog Talk Radio, and more on my videos in the future, I'm sure. Thank you for watching. Good night.